Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, and I'm joined by a slightly under the weather Sean Martin. So apologies in advance if you hear some coughing and spluttering from Sean. But like the good old super trooper, he's here with us. Sean, how you doing?
All right, Tony. Not bad.
I suppose you're smiling, and you would have lots of reasons to smile yesterday because you covered the game for the Celtic Way yesterday, and a tremendous 4-2 win in Dundee. Lots of good stuff. A couple of bad things was concession of sloppy goals, but yeah, I mean we'll accentuate the positives in Jota and Kyogo at the double, and the Celtic fans now clambering to get an early deal done for Jota. He's a special player, isn't he, Sean?
He is. I mean, when me and Andy kind of done the kind of scouting report of him just before he joined, it was clear that he had this brilliant youth pedigree, and there was obviously a gem, I think we called him there, that needed kind of unlocked a wee bit, and we were hoping that as Postecoglou and getting regular games under such a coach would kind of tap into that potential, because he wasn't really getting the breakthrough at Benfica. And I think the guy that we spoke to, and myself and Andy, both, the three of us all thought, well, it's going to take him a while to get up to speed because he's not been playing senior football, but he's come in, he's virtually played every minute since he came in, and he's been pretty brilliant for most of them. I mean, he's emerged as the kind of main challenger to Kyogo for the player of the season so far, I would say. Keep your eyes out for the updated power rankings, because it's an international break, which is when we're going to do them and stuff, which is our match ratings, all collated. If I remember rightly, Kyogo was top the last time, but it was by a slim margin. So interesting to see if Jota's caught up with him, because the two of them have been playing well, and they've been playing well together, which is just as exhilarating as their individual performances.
Yeah, and the thing about it yesterday was he took both of them took their two goals superbly well yesterday, and three of them set up by the Scottish Cafu, Ralston, as he's known, Anthony Ralston. I mean, something else, Sean. What a transformation!
I mean, who do you want me to take first there? Do you want me to take Jota's goals, or do you want me to take the Ralston deliveries?
In any order you want, Sean.
No, we'll go straight to Tony, will we? It was another good performance, more than good performance. He's celebrating that New Deal style, isn't he? I mean, involved in 3/4 of the goals. I mean, he's deflected shot, even the volley. I mean, it's the way that it's going for them. They knew that volley hit the post and went right to Jota. He played well. He was obviously, a lot of fans have been liking and sharing the clip of him, or rather Charlie Adam bouncing off of him in the lead up to the goal directly after half time, which I think was probably the most important goal of the game.
Yeah,
you could argue it was the first goal, because obviously an early goal for Celtic, we know that how much that sets them up for the game, and I could see that. But certainly the third goal, right after half time, effectively telling Dundee, no, you're actually not going to get back into this in any meaningful way, so don't even think about it. And he was a big part of that.
And that's the goal that I was on the other pod yesterday, and I said every player apart from Joe Hart went behind the goals to celebrate that goal, Sean, which was very telling. And I mean, every player, there was 10 of them behind the goal celebrating with Jota, and it kind of tells you. And spoken before about Jota, the last time he was put in front of the cameras, he said we're building a strong family, or it's like a family here, and you got that impression yesterday, didn't you? When that goal went in, and they were all celebrating with Jota together.
I think you've been getting that impression for a wee while now, and it's not just Jota. I mean, I wrote about it in my piece that went live this morning. That McGregor's mentioned it, Turnbull's mentioned it, Jota obviously, Joe Hart, Carter Vickers. A lot of them have mentioned the kind of bond that's grown between the players and between the players and the manager. We've all mentioned before about them buying into it, but they're getting the rewards of buying into it as well now. I mean, the part of the piece that I put up the day was basically the difference that a month makes. You've specifically, I remember you saying about the Aberdeen win before they knocked off the last international break, and how that could spur on, even though it was before a break, if you know what I mean. I agree with you, and it subsequently has proven to be true. It has spurred on a quite remarkable run. The Livingston draw aside, obviously, but I mean, just even looking at it in bare facts from the last international break when they knocked off, I mean, they were 6th in the table. And I know it was maybe a false position because obviously they had a couple of kind of the results that could have went either way, and other teams were still to hit a wee bit of a plateau. But regardless, they were still 6th in the Premiership, 6 points off the top, bottom of the Europa League group, no points in the Europa League group. And then fast forward a month, 6 wins from 7 games. All right, the gap's still 4 points at the top, but it's still small progress, but it's still progress. Secured European football after Christmas in some way. The performances have been getting victories. They've been scoring goals still. It's remarkable. The last 7 games in that period since the last international break.
This management lacks a doddle for Ange, isn't it, Sean? You know what I mean? What we're all worried about. See a couple of comments here. Simon Thomas, hail from Australia. Simon, hello to you. How you doing? Rab McEwen, this team will only get better. I thought I was excited at the start of the season. Robert Hyland, morning lads, morning Robert. Ted, Celtic should have scored at least 6 goals. Rab McEwen comes in on the subject of Ange. What does it say about Ange coaching? Look at Ralston. Yep, couldn't agree more. Ewan Boy Martin comes in. Beaton like a new signing now. He's playing his natural position. He'll get better and better under Ange. We'll touch upon that. Frank Brennan, we got the early goal. We always need a very good one at that, and then the other 3 good ones really fall. And without sounding too grumpy, we conceded 2 sloppy goals to a very poor team. Yeah, I mean, there are those concerns, Frank, still. David Bradley, regular contributor, comes in. He nearly came in because must have deleted your comment. Sorry, David, I'm sure it was about Ralston. Frank, absolutely. Beaton's like a completely new signing, and Shaw and I must be messed about by playing him nearly all over the place, but only forever more. Play him exactly where he's playing it now. Yeah, I mean, lots of plethora of opinions there, Sean, but agree with most of them. You know, they're starting to look like a cohesive unit and a team that is capable of getting results wherever they go.
I think so. I think they were always capable of scoring, and I agree that the goals were sloppy, as they were. You could argue against Ferencvaros as well. All 4 goals Celtic have conceded in the last few days were preventable, in my opinion. Yeah. But I think that has been a feature of Celtic's concessions a lot of the time this season, probably before that as well. But overall, I agree with you. I think the fact that it's almost totally a new squad, which again was something Jota mentioned the other day, I think it sometimes goes overlooked just how quickly, in a way. I know they had the blip with it, especially before the last international break, with that run of 7 games was 3 wins, 3 losses and a draw. And I just said where they ended up at the end of that run and stuff. But it still has been fairly quick that they've managed to gel and they've managed to form a bond. And the only thing I would say is that a few injuries or a couple of injuries will still wreak havoc the way that they did after the September international break. So that'll be the worry getting into this one. But it is this international break, and then you're looking at reinforcements in January, and hopefully the type of reinforcements that the manager wants and needs to reinvigorate what he's trying to do.
I felt at the time, Sean, the Aberdeen win at Pittodrie was significant. It was significant in the way they won, because they didn't play particularly well the second half. They ground it out, and then Ange had his moment with the supporters. So it seemed to me that was a kind of watershed moment in the season where Celtic players and the manager said, right, this is it. This is where we'll launch. We're assault on things. We go for it now. So I felt that was a big result for Celtic in terms of the context of the season, and it's proven to be so, and also it's proven to be the fact that certain players are now stepping up to the plate because they are buying what the manager's selling. David Bradley, that's a comment I wanted to put up. Tony, what he said about Ralston, I'm stunned how he's playing the boy, showing pure heart, and he wants it, as it was his last chance. Yep. Simon Thomas comes back in, impressed by Beaton's level of performance. Hopefully he can maintain it. Elliot Farmer said should be signed now. I'm assuming he's talking about Jota. Chris D comes in. Funny how nobody talks about extending Ange past this season. I hope the board is in extension talks. I'm sure they will be. And Rabin Tune comes back in. At the start of the season, we conceded. Looked rattled last few weeks. I haven't felt that. And Edward Wyvos, if crosses are accurate, height wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, I think speaking about stuff like that. Steve McSkimming comes in and says, brilliant yesterday. After the midweek game against the Hungarians, could have come out and played for a draw, but Big Ange's side playing great football with nearly a new squad. I mean that's the kind of feeling that we've got about watching them, Sean. So lots of supporters now, and thanks for your comments, guys. And I'll just say, if you're watching on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to subscribe, it's £1 a month to cover for some top quality journalism in a club you love, and you'll get notifications of when we're going live and stuff like that. But Sean, you have to say, at this moment in time, it's ticking along quite nicely, isn't it?
It is, and now it's about, first and foremost, getting through the international break without ending up like the September one and coming back injury ravaged and with no depth. And then after that, continue the momentum like they did after knocking off with the Aberdeen one. They come back and, as I say, they've reeled off this great run of form. Livingston result aside, and closed the gap. And the more that they continue to do that, the more momentum they build. Not the easier it will become, but the easier it will seem to them, if you know what I mean. The away win thing, which also was the Aberdeen game that kind of burst that hoodoo. The away thing is touch wood now, no longer as big an issue as what it was. That includes away in Europe now, if you take the Ferencvaros win. So I think it's looking good. The only thing is obviously the nature of the goals that they're conceding. That is still an issue. I still think they're preventable.
Yep, I think it'd be churlish not to mention the fact that they conceded 2 careless and sloppy goals yesterday. But a couple of comments coming in here. Christopher Coyle comes in and says, we missed Starfelt last 2 games. And Rob McEwen's come in and said, never thought he'd see that comment and agree. So, I think a lot of the supporters like Welsh, but they're just, they're kind of hoping to see Julian come back and see where he fits in and all of this, Sean. Which it's a nice kind of it's something nice to look forward to, in the fact that Julian is at some point going to come back into that defence.
Aye, I think so, and I think the amount of when Celtic are pressurising the opposition the way that they were yesterday and winning a few corners in quick succession, you fancy Big Julian to put away a couple of the chances that Turnbull provided from the deliveries and stuff. Maybe that's unfair on Carter Vickers and Welsh. Maybe not Welsh, because he should have at least hit the target with his. But Big Julian in the opposition box is a danger. So in that sense, as much as his defensive sense, I think he'll be a welcome addition. Yeah. In terms of Starfelt, I think he was improving. I think the injury came at a bad time for him because he was starting to look a wee bit more comfortable. I still think there's reservations about how dawdly he is on the ball. He was certainly starting to look more comfortable in the games leading up to his injury.
Yeah. Now, David Bradley comes in again and says, Rangers are there for the taking. We must let Ange get his players in for that final push. Well, that'll come out in the wash, won't it? And Dead Mouse comes in and says, Welsh is a competent squad player who's still learning the game. I think there's merit in that. Mm-hmm. Edward Haswell comes in. Good morning, guys. Good performance from Jota and Kyogo. Yep, mentioned that. And Ted comes in again. Welsh was good, other than the missed goal. That's fair enough. But I think the thing about Celtic with the concession of the goals yesterday, they were still in command when they conceded the goals. It was just down to a bit of sloppiness and carelessness, Sean, which I think with a wee bit of tightening up and just more concentration, more focus, that will come. They will eradicate that, won't they, moving forward?
I hope so. I think there's genuinely the word is preventable, and it's the same with Ferencvaros stuff. It's small things, but it's like, for instance, the first goal, I think Turnbull gets beat too easily. The cross when it comes in, the defence, including Welsh, who I did think was actually good in general, were very static when that cross came in. The second goal, I felt McGregor or I can't remember if it was your Ralston, but certainly McGregor was there. Just an extra wee bit to go and pressurise the cross coming in, and then obviously once the cross came in, Hart made the wrong decision. No debate about that. These things they're small. They obviously led to goals. Sometimes they won't lead to goals. Sometimes you'll get away with it. Ultimately, it didn't cost them. But I agree with you. The real positive from it is, and someone mentioned it in the comments already, they might have conceded, but they didn't look as if they were absolutely rattled after it. The way that they did, for instance, you look back at the Real Betis game, and level of opposition aside, because it's happened when it's not been an opposition of the level of Real Betis, that when Celtic have conceded one, they've looked as if they'll concede again right away. I don't think it looked like that yesterday. I think the kind of momentary momentum that Dundee got from that first goal, I think Celtic kind of coped with it well. And then by the time 5 minutes had elapsed, Celtic were back in total control. If Welsh scores that before half-time, they're 3-1 up at the half anyway. And then after half-time, they came out and said right away that yous are not getting back into this.
There was a tailing off, Sean, when the substitutions were made just after the hour mark and Giakoumakis came on. And I'm making the point that there is such a thing as a player trying desperately hard to impress. And I think that's the case with Giakoumakis. I just think he needs to relax a wee bit and let it flow a wee bit more and let it be a wee bit more natural. Because the one that Forrest laid back to him, he should have just tapped that into the net and he's not even hit the target. So, just some players are maybe too keen. I'm cutting him some slack because some of his hold-up play is good and the way he can play others in and kind of bump and barb defenders about. I quite like that about him, but just want him now to ally that to some goal scoring, for him, for his own confidence level, for nothing else,
He also took a shot from about 40 yards, which, I mean, we all know that's not his game. He's only been here 5 minutes, but we know that's not his game. But no, I think I want to see more from him, but I do agree with you. I think it's. I wrote in my match ratings that it struck me as kind of a wee bit low on confidence. Maybe, as you say, striving too much to want to make an impact and impress, which is only natural. I mean, he's only arrived at the club number 7 shirt and all that. But I think I want to see more from him than being the guy that you put on to help you see out the game, if you know what I mean, because he's coming with a better reputation than that. It will come, I think, if the more game time he gets. Crucially, the more chances he takes as well. I think the more confidence he'll get, and he won't snatch at stuff like he did with the Forest, the one that Forest laid on a plate for him. There was also the one he actually made a decent run in behind, and the ball through to him I thought was reachable, but he almost took a wee bit too long to actually make up his mind of whether he was wanting to try a shot or control it, and it ended up just kind of getting away from him the chance. And I think that goes back to what you're saying, that he's maybe overthinking it rather than going on the instinct and going on the way that you would if you were confident.
Now, we've bigged up Kyogo from the minute he's come in the door. Talismanic, I think I called him at one point, and he's proven to be. But Robert McClatchy comes in with this one. Can we talk about Kyogo feigning injury? I love him, but he needs to lose that from his game. What would you say to that, Sean?
What I would say to that is I almost understand where someone's coming from when they say that, because I don't think any footballer needs to necessarily roll about if they go down. But the Livy game, he was literally hitting the head. Dundee, you could argue maybe didn't have to go down the way that he went down, but if you look at the way he's generally treated by defenders, and a lot of it isn't called by the officials, he's maybe making a point by going down rather than anything else, rather than actually trying to make it out to be something it wasn't. He's maybe trying to draw the referee's eye a wee bit more, look what's actually happening in here, rather than just if I go down. I think he had a word with the referee at one point as well, which I would presume was to try and draw his attention to the treatment that he gets. You even go back to that Aberdeen game as well, which is when I was kind of saying that I didn't think any of his teammates were necessarily backing him up enough, which has changed since then, thankfully. With the treatment Calvin Ramsey gave him, and then the way that the opposition fans were kind of booing him as if he was making it up, like he was getting kicked from pillar to post, that he had every right to go down at some stage and stuff. So I don't know if I would necessarily call it feigning injury. Maybe I'm blinded a wee bit by the Kyogo factor, but no, I think him specifically, the treatment he's been getting so far by some of the.
Want to borrow my green tinted spectacles? Yeah, actually. But that's your comment, Sean. I think you've called it there as you see it. So I think you've made a case there, and he does get some treatment, and maybe it is a case of Kyogo drawing referees' attention to what's happening, and he has gone down a bit theatrically, just to make a point. But it's worth some. Robert's made the point, it's probably worth monitoring it going forward to see how it actually plays out.
It could count against them at some stage. If it depends what reputation you get from it, rightly or wrongly. Sometimes you're judged by the reputation when it comes to that kind of thing. But I'm going to err on the side of it's because he's getting treatment and he wants to draw attention to it more than anything else.
Fair enough. David Bradley comes in. Tony, I'm starting to see leaders in this Celtic team now. We've spoken about that ourselves, Sean, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Rob McEwen comes in. I like Big Zeus. He's talking about Giacomakis. Definitely a player there, but I love Blackback too. Ted comes in. Giacomakis was good in the first half with all the corners we were getting. David Bradley says he's looking a bit scared on Sunday after the penalty miss, possibly. And Frank comes in. A word of caution about transfer window is that for at least the last decade, Celtic have hitherto done terrible business, the quality of signings at this time, and we must do better. Don't think anybody would disagree with that. Edward went, Kyogo feigning in injuries is a psychological tactic to warn opponents not to get too close to him or he'll fall down. Edward, fair enough. And then Frank comes back in, just like everyone else. Love Kyogo to death, but his reaction infamous missed Livingston penalty was not good. That's fair enough. That's I don't think he had to go down the way he did for the Livingston penalty, but you see, he was still smacked around the head, wasn't he? So,
unfortunately, I think I do agree, and as I said, I don't think he had to go down the way that he did, but that is the way that most footballers react now, if anyone's even near them, kind of thing.
Yeah. And we'll end with this one. Michael Quinn comes in. I have belief in the team now, not hoping for the best. I think that's fair enough comment, Sean, and I think that's a fairly positive comment from a supporter to end the broadcast on. Happy weekend for Celtic. Decent 3 points going into the international break, and as you say, I think Ange will more than Indy will be praying that none of these international stars come a cropper like they did in September. I've been Tony Haggerty. Thanks for your contribution, Sean.
Cheers,
and again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and subscribe. It's £1 a month, and you'll see our two faces on a regular basis, whether you want to or not. And if you subscribe for £1 a month, you'll get access to some top quality journalism as well. Thanks very much, and thanks for your contribution, guys. Really appreciate it. Cheers.